Recording the oral history interview of George Hundley, B Company, 493rd Armored Field Artillery, 12th Armored Division,
Correct.
Second World War.
Right.
Interview being taken at the Washington, D.C. 65th Reunion, 4th of August 2011. First, sir, I want to thank you for agreeing to sit down and talk to me. And start at the beginning. Before you joined the Army, what were you doing?
Well, I was born on a farm. I was raised on a farm, and just before I went into service, I worked a while for a metal company, a sheet metal company, for a year, maybe a year before I went in service.
Now, whereabouts did you grow up?
In Stewart, Virginia, big city. If you go through there fast, you miss it.
Now, were you drafted into the Army or did you join up?
I drafted.
And where did you go for your boot camp, do you recall?
I went to I went to Camp Lee, Virginia, just for orientation for about 2 weeks, and then I went to Camp Barkley. No, I went to Fort Knox, Kentucky, and there I take my basic training in Fort Knox, Kentucky, and from there I went to Tennessee on maneuvers for 3-4 months. I don't forget the exact date. Well, I know about the date, and then I went from there to Camp Barkley, Texas, taking my training there. Then from there, I went to Camp Shanks, New York, ready to ship overseas.
Now, tell me a little bit about a farm boy joining the Army. How much of a shock was it for you? How different was it from your regular life?
Well, the rhetoric I went through was quite a bit different, but I was raised on a farm and I was in good shape. I mean, I was physically, physically in good shape, and so training didn't bother me much. What I had to exercise and so forth, you went through, but then otherwise I got used to so and so calling names and this that. I didn't like it very well, but I booked it a little and had to have a little extra duty once in a while for it, but I finally got used to that. And after a while, I got around it.
So you talk about going from Camp Barkley to Camp Shanks, New York. Talk to me about the trip across the ocean.
Well, the trip across the ocean, it was right something to think about. Anyhow, when we started across the ocean, we're supposed to go within 8 days, I believe it was. And I believe it was 17 days. We had a few, what it was done in the water, I can't even think of the name of the people go into the water and shoot, the gun.
Oh, the U-boats.
U-boats or what have you. And we encountered a lot of them, so that's the reason we had trouble going over there. So then we landed in England, Tidworth, England, for just a short while. I believe it was about 3 weeks, and then we went into Lahore, France, just a few days after after the war. I mean, it had already been invaded. Lahore had. We went in a few days after that, and then it was from there on through France, Luxembourg, Belgium, and then we went into almost into Berlin, and we was in the Battle of the Bulge for a while. Then when that was over, we turned back and went towards Austria. So, and then we wound up in Czechoslovakia. And then when that was over, I thought I was doing fine, They said, well, all of you want to volunteer, and I was always hesitant to volunteer. So I said, well, I want to be smart. I will volunteer. We come back to the States. That was the plan. come back to the States, 30-day furlough, and then we'd get 30 days training and go to Japan. Well, I already had it planned that when I come back to the States, when they hollered for George Hundley, he wouldn't be going to Japan because they couldn't find him. But they said we all got they were all gathered in Munich, Germany. Or 1,000 of young soldiers had the same idea. I did, I reckon, but anyhow, foolish one. So when they got in Munich, Germany, about maybe 2 weeks or something like that, they dropped a bomb in Japan. So that ended that. And then they come back and said, well, you had got to stay in occupation in Germany, and we're going to send you down into Austria. So I went down into Austria, stayed down there and the first of from September, I believe it was September, August, one or the other, to the 1st of January, and then I got to come back to the States. And I come back the same time I forget the name of the aircraft carrier broke in two. The weather was so rough. So that I had a good ride from France to New York for about 16 days again. So I don't like the water too well yet.
Now, during the war, your position, what was your position or your job in the 492
Well,
Field Artillery?
I was a tank driver and assistant gunner on the M7. See, the field artillery had 105s instead of the 90 millimeters on the Sherman tanks. So I was so happened that I was driver most of the time and the gunner otherwise.
Now, did you participate in the battle at Herlisheim?
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about your experience there?
Well, it's kind of fuzzy, but I know that was a place I believe we got run out of. We'd advance and then we'd get run back twice, and we got familiar with the same ground we was fighting over, but it was, put it mildly, it was hell. So, we never did, actually, the field artillery never did have to do no hand-to-hand fighting, very little. And so we stood back here and called out 5 miles over here, you wanted something shelled over there, we'd shell it. So.
Is there anything else you'd care to add or talk about? You're at the end of your term in service, your life after the Army, anything you'd like to leave a mark on?
How about your stories from Abilene, or your stories about the dog and the foxhole?
Oh.
All those good stories.
Well, I could tell them.
Mm-hmm.
I was telling, and I don't forgot the name. It was close to Augsburg, Germany. It was right across, right close to the German border, and the French border. And we went into this little town, and we were supposed to go in at 4 o'clock in the morning, and somebody got the wires screwed up. Of course, they don't do that in the higher ups, but they did then. And we went down in this place, and it was a steep hill going down in this little, I forget the name of the little city. We went down into this city, and when we started down this city, they started shelling us. So we couldn't go back, I couldn't go beyond that, because they was looking right down, had fort observers were looking right down our throats, so to speak. So we stayed in that place, I believe it was 16 days, the best of my memory. And she was talking about the little dog. We would get out when they'd quit shelling us. We'd get out and talk and carry on just like you and I are doing now. And so they started shelling us one day, and so half hours would stay on a tank, and half hours had a foxhole big enough to 2 or 3 hours to get in. So I crawled in the foxhole when it was shelling pretty heavy. I crawled in the foxhole, and all of a sudden something dropped in there and just boom. And I said, Lord of me, that's a shell done hit in my foxhole. And looked around, it was a little dog about so long. But he done a trick. He almost scared you know what. But you could imagine that if you just, and that's one of the tales. And then another thing happened to me. We was just holding the lines for a night or two or something. And this one boy, he was from Tifton, Georgia. He told me, he said, well, they said we got word it was paratroopers, German paratroopers jumping in behind us. He said, don't worry, I'll take care of them. I said, you don't even know what you're doing. You know, I was kind of a smart aleck too, but anyhow, I said, you don't even know what you're doing. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, you ain't even got, he's gonna load his gun to be sure he was ready. And I said, you ain't even got the safety on it. Oh, he said, you think you're so smart of a fella. Said, I know what I'm doing. I said, okay, you know what you're doing. I said, stick it out the turret, the gun, tank, and pull the trigger. And he read of it, sure enough, he did fire the gun. And his mouth flew up about that big, and he said, I thought. I said, that's the way we get killed. So, the captain come down there, he was just a tank or two away, he come down there. Oh, he lit into that young fella while we was both young, 19 years old. So I finally told him, I said, just let him go. I said, I think he's learned his lesson. Yeah, that's one instant. And I don't know.
Was that Abilene?
Abilene. What about Abilene?
Pick on your buddies.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's the thing. She's talking about the things we used to do. We'll have to do anything to, a bunch of while, say if you've been in service, a bunch of GIs. This one guy, he was always late. Every time he was late. So we finally just taken and nailed his shoes. He would every morning when he'd reveille, he'd just hop up and scoot in his shoes and right at the door the last second. So we taken and nailed his shoes down, just very innocent like. Well, the next morning he tried to pull the same thing and he fell out the door. Well, you know what that was? We all got quarantined for pulling that trick on him. I believe about 2 weeks we couldn't go out of the area. And this other thing happened. This boy was sleepy. I mean, he could sleep anywhere. You could throw him up here on his table or have a pile of rocks or anything, and he'd sleep. So we got him one night, and 4 or 5 of us got him and taken him from this company down, about 3 companies down, and set him down in the barracks. Well, he wondered what he done the next morning when he woke up. He didn't know where's that. Well, we got again quarantined for that, and so that didn't suit us. We had a one time there that this one guy, he would come in and just throw his clothes off. He didn't care whether it's on the old bulk or his, and just fall in the bed, and about half asleep. Sometimes he was half drunk. So we just taken his bunk and tied it up to the ceiling, and he missed the bed. So we got quarantined again. But it's just some of the little funny things that happen. And let's see. Oh, now this I can't remember. We used to go into town. It's about 20 miles from the Abilene. Camp Barkley was about 20 miles, 18 miles from Abilene, and we'd go into town, every chance we got, and you'd ride the bus, and the air was so hot it would burn you. It was either 113 or 118, I forgot which, but air conditioning, that was something you never heard of. Didn't know what it was. So we had these little shacks, really built out of plywood and just nailed together, just about all we had to sleep in. And it'd come these sandstorms, and you'd have to get the throw the sand off of your blankets and stuff. And it was with that and cactus and armadillos and things like that was my Texas experience. So, but
What about the, when you liberated some of the camps?
yeah, I was in the liberation of 2 of the concentration camps. That was something awful. People will say, some people will say that never happened. I know it did happen, and nobody better not tell me that it didn't. Because we liberated this one camp. I forget. It's what was it that camp was? Anyhow, we liberated 3 camps, but I liberated 2 camps, and they would taking people. They would take them just, I mean, not 2 or 3 at a time, hundreds at a time, 1,000. When we got there one morning early, about 4 o'clock in the morning, would liberate this camp, and they heard we was nearby. They didn't know we was right on top of them. And when we went in, they'd line people up along the railroad. I mean, not just 1 or 2, but hundreds of them, and shot them in the back. So, and the ones that got away from that camp, and they was pitiful. They just, well, it was meat stretched over the bones, if you know how people would look. And the people that got away, they was afraid of us. They was German Jews, Polish, and Russians, all different, and there's the Polish, Russians, and Hungarians, and different people. But anyhow, they had told those people that the Americans told them to do this to the people, and they was afraid of us. And then as soon as they found out we was human beings and not otherwise, so they listened to us, But it was amazing. I had one incident, and we were talking about combat. I don't know how it happened, and I'm lucky to be here today. One of the SS troops was, we was pulled into this area. This was right before the war was over, and pulled into this area, and me and this other boy, this Griffin boy who I was talking about shooting, we were kind of buddies, and so we was right at the edge of this field, and we knew that Germans hadn't been long left there, but this one SS troop come out of his foxhole, and I had the gun on him, and Griffin did, to shoot him, and it just hollered, and he dropped his gun. It's the only thing that saved me and him too. And that was the closest right, in contact with people. And two, this one stays from my mind a lot. There's one night there, we was all getting ready. We had Fort observers out telling us what to do, and this one big building, a farm building, where 38 people went into it, Germans, soldiers, and we fired, I don't know how many rounds of this white phosphorus, and you know what that does. Well, none of it had come out. I think a lot about that, but at the same time, they had killed a lot of our people, and just like they did with them people from the train town. So that's pretty. And then talking about life after that, I come back home in January of 46, and I believe it's about the around the 1st of March. But and then I went to work for a contractor there, building. Now I went to work for a concrete man, and so I was in good shape, but I wasn't in good enough shape to handle all that concrete I had to handle. So I quit him and went to work for a contractor was building houses, and I enjoyed that. So I worked for a while, and then my wife, she was not my wife then, but she was working at DuPont. And so I said, well, that will be the best place for me to work. So I got a job at DuPont and went in there as a machinist, a tool maker, and I worked for 41 years. And let's see, yeah, 41 years. And then I raised a family. I had sorry. I had three boys and a girl. Well, I raised 3 boys and a girl, and I lost one boy a year ago. And, so, that's all right. I'll be all right in a minute. Oh, I lost my son, and then I lost my wife 8 years ago. Thank you. And that's about it, really.
What about the guns you ended up sending home?
Oh, well, no, I'm a gun fanatic. I sent a couple home from Germany where I've taken one off of my prison, little handgun, a 32 automatic, and then another one was 8mm Mauser. And I do fool with one now and then. I've got one or two. I've got now like I say, I'm a gun fanatic. I have too many, but I love to fool with them. I've got a few old ones, new ones, and so forth. But it's a good hobby.
Well, it's also my hobby.
Is that right?
Yes, sir. I have in fact, all the weapons you'll see for the Living History collection are ones that I actually bring. They're actually from my collection.
Oh, is that right?
Well, that way I don't have to risk anything that a veteran has donated getting damaged or anything. So yeah.
Well, I've got most every kind. I have had it all. I had a lot that I used to trade on, this, that, and that. I wish I'd have kept, but I guess you have it too if you had food about it. I've got well, and German stuff. I ain't got too many. I've got a German Mauser, Officer Special. But it's a nice gun. Well, it's about the highest price gun I got. Well, it's listed about $3,600. So, but and I've got Remington Colts, you name it, I got it. But I enjoyed fooling with it. And I love to hunt. I've hunted all of my life. I keep beagles. I've got F-3 now. I did F-28 at one time, and
You didn't like to travel very much after
so
serving.
no, I never did much traveling. I'll go to these reunions and things like that, but never did travel about all I wanted to. Where are you from?
Originally from New Jersey, but now down in Abilene.
Oh my, Abilene. I spent several rough days. Camp Barkley there. Yeah, we was there 2 years ago at Abilene at the reunion, and I felt so sorry for some poor old Texan out there bought up the land out there and just pushed the houses off or done something, I don't know what, but anyhow, it was all gone. They had a few cattle in there, horses and cattle, and I went out there and looked around a while, and I found 35 cents out there, so I was that debt that much too. And like I say, all of my daughter, and she was kind of spoiled a little bit because she's a boy. They used to say before she was born, everybody said, "No, you want a little girl." They said, "It's so much smarter." By the time she was 6 weeks old, she'd climb that wall, I think, but she turned out all right.
Well, sir, I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
I appreciate it. Appreciate it.